Hi, from Jock Media. Welcome to the deep dive. So, you sent over this interesting bit about some social media drama involving Chery Automobile and Geely.
Yeah, exactly. A senior guy at Chery apparently made some comments about a new Geely EV.
And it seems like maybe just a few online remarks could actually give us a window into the really intense competition happening in the Chinese electric vehicle market.
That's the idea. It feels like more than just a random comment. It points to the pressures.
Okay, so that's our mission today. Let's unpack this digital incident, this little bit of drama, and see what it tells us about the industry over there.
And what's really interesting, right off the bat, is how this stuff travels and how sensitive it seems to be.
How so?
Well, the initial news reports about these comments, apparently they were published and then, poof, taken down really quickly.
Ah, okay. That definitely suggests someone wasn't happy about it being public.
Exactly. Hints at the sensitivity around these kinds of competitive jabs.
All right, let's get into the details then. Who exactly made these comments?
It was reportedly Yao Fei. He also goes by Yao Yanfeng. He's the vice general manager of Chery Automobile's marketing company. So pretty senior marketing figure.
Okay, VP level in marketing. And where did he say this? Not on main Chery channels, I assume.
No, apparently it was in a Douyin group. Douyin, China's TikTok equivalent.
Right, yeah.
It was a group specifically for potential owners or early adopters of Chery's own upcoming EV, the Fullwin A9.
Interesting. So kind of an insider group almost, talking to potential Chery buyers.
Seems like it. And Douyin is massive in China, a very direct way to reach people. For a marketing exec to post critiques there, it's a bit unusual.
Definitely. And what exactly was he critiquing? Which car?
The target was the Geely Galaxy Starshine 8. That's Geely's new mid to high-end hybrid sedan. It just launched like May 9th, 2025.
Okay, brand new car from a direct competitor. And what did he supposedly say?
Well, the reports claim he called it a terrible car. Didn't mince words, apparently.
Wow, okay. Terrible car. That's direct. Did he give specifics?
Yeah, he reportedly pointed to two things. Cramped second-row seating and poor audio quality.
Those are definitely things buyers care about, especially in that segment, right? Comfort, features.
Absolutely. Targeting practical aspects like seating and the sound system.
Mm-hmm.
It feels quite calculated. You have to wonder who he thought he was talking to, just the group members.
You'd think so, but things leak, don't they? And I bet they did here.
Oh, for sure. The comments apparently spread online pretty fast.
And I imagine folks weren't too pleased, especially people who might have just bought the Geely Starshine 8.
Exactly. Reports mentioned backlash from online users, and yeah, you can bet some new Geely owners were probably raising their eyebrows, digitally speaking.
It just shows, doesn't it, how even comments in a supposedly small group can blow up. Information just moves so fast now.
Totally. An executive's opinion, even seemingly off the cuff, can shape public perception almost instantly.
So to really get why this caused a fuss, we need that context you mentioned. Geely versus Geely. What's the deal there?
Well, it's all about this upcoming Chery car, the Fullwin A9. It's an EV expected pretty much any day now, May or June 2025.
Right.
And the price point is estimated around 100,000 yuan. That's, about 13,700 US dollars, give or take?
Right. And how does that compare to the Geely car he criticized?
That's the key. The Geely Galaxy Starshine 8 is seen as a direct competitor. They're aiming for the same buyers.
Ah, okay. Head to head. That changes things, doesn't it?
Absolutely. When you've got two cars launching around the same time, targeting the same market segment, any public criticism gets magnified. It's not just comparing specs anymore.
It's like a direct challenge.
Pretty much.
And the Geely Starshine 8 pricing, where does that sit?
It comes in 7 different versions, but the promotional prices are running from about 115,800 yuan up to 155,800 yuan.
So roughly $16,000 to maybe 21,600 US.
Exactly. So you can see the overlap. They're definitely fishing in the same pond.
Yeah, that confirms it. They're rivals for the same customer's money.
And that strong overlap probably explains the comments, or at least the motivation behind them. Chery must see the Starshine 8 as a real threat to their Fullwin A9 launch.
So maybe Yao Fei's comments were an attempt to, sow some doubt? Undermine the competitor just before their own launch?
It certainly could be read that way.
Yeah.
A bit of pre-launch FUD fear, uncertainty, and doubt aimed at a key rival.
Okay, but there's more to the Geely side of this, right? Their Galaxy brand has been doing pretty well.
Oh, yeah, really well. There was an announcement from Fang Juni. He's the general manager of Geely Automobile Sales. He said that by the end of April 2025, cumulative sales for the Galaxy brand had already passed 930,000 units.
Wow, nearly 1 million vehicles. For a brand that isn't that old, relatively speaking.
Exactly. It's impressive growth, shows strong market acceptance quickly. That kind of success definitely gets competitors' attention.
How kidding. Were they expected to hit the million mark soon?
They were actually on track to potentially hit 1 million sales this month, May 2025.
This month. So like right now.
Yeah. And if they do, or did, it could make them the fastest new energy brand, or one of the fastest anyway, to reach that milestone.
That's a huge statement, isn't it? That kind of velocity must put pressure on everyone else.
For sure. Reaching 1 million sales that fast says a lot about your strategy, your products, your execution.
Yeah.
Suggests Geely really figured out how to connect with buyers in the new energy space.
And the momentum seems strong this year, too.
Definitely. Just in the first 4 months of 2025, Geely Galaxy sold over 356,000 units.
Okay, over 350,000 in 4 months. That's a strong pace.
It puts them in a really good position to hit their annual target, which I believe was aiming for 1 million sales this year.
Wow. So the Starshine 8 is launching into a brand that's already got massive momentum.
Exactly. And these sales figures, they just underline the scale of Geely's success right now. You can see why a competitor like Chery would be watching closely and maybe feeling the need to fight for their share.
And didn't Geely also make some strategic moves with the Galaxy brand recently?
They did, yeah. Back in March, they actually elevated the Galaxy series into its own standalone brand.
Okay, so not just a model series anymore, but a full brand.
Right. And it's meant to cover the whole spectrum of new energy vehicles, sedans, SUVs, MPVs. They even folded in LEVC automobile.
LEVC, aren't they the ones who make those electric London black cabs?
That's them. Geely owns them. And now they're being positioned as the high-end MPV offering under this new expanded Galaxy brand.
Huh. So Geely is really going all in on new energy across the board with Galaxy.
It signals a very serious, very comprehensive commitment. They're not just dipping their toes in. They're building a major pillar for their future in EVs and hybrids.
Okay, so back to the Chery comments. What happened after they got out? What was the fallout for Yao Fei?
Well, the reports say he acted fast. 2 main things. He apparently disbanded that Douyin group, the A9 Founders Edition Owners Group.
The very group where he supposedly made the comments.
Seems so. And second, he made his personal Douyin account private.
Right, closing the doors after the horses bolted, maybe?
Kind of looks that way. It strongly suggests the comments weren't meant for public consumption, and that maybe Chery corporate wasn't thrilled about the situation. Likely some internal action or direction there.
Trying to contain the damage, basically.
Exactly. Shutting down the group, going private. Classic containment moves.
Do we know much about this Yao Fei guy? His background?
Public info seems a bit limited, but there's one interesting tidbit. Before Chery, he apparently had a senior marketing role at Great Wall Motors.
Another major Chinese automaker.
Right. Specifically, he was marketing communications director for their Aura brand.
Aura. Okay. They focus on EVs too, don't they? Kind of quirky design sometimes.
That's the one. So the point is he's not new to the EV space or automotive marketing. He's got experience in this competitive field.
Which makes the directness of the comments even more interesting, maybe. He should know the sensitivities.
You'd think so. Coming from someone with that background, it does make you wonder about the intent or maybe the pressure he felt.
And you mentioned earlier the news reports about this were taken down quickly.
Yeah, that's perhaps the most telling part. The fact that stories were published and then just vanished.
It really screams sensitive situation, doesn't it?
It does. It highlights the intense scrutiny within the Chinese EV market and maybe suggests that someone, either Chery or maybe even Geely, preferred not to have a public fight. High stakes for brand image.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. What does this whole incident really tell us, maybe tell you listening?
Well, I think it's a really clear snapshot of just how fierce the competition is in China's EV market right now. It's booming, but it's crowded.
Yeah, it's not just about building the best tech or having the coolest design anymore, is it?
Not at all. The marketing battles, the PR, the way companies position themselves against rivals, that seems just as intense, if not more so sometimes. You're seeing these skirmishes play out, even in unexpected places like a Douyin group.
It really feels like the pressure is immense for a senior exec to lash out so directly.
Exactly. It highlights that pressure cooker environment. Everyone's fighting tooth and nail for market share. And maybe it hints at some underlying tension between the more established players and these fast-growing new energy brands like Geely Galaxy.
So for you listening, if you're following this industry, it's a reminder, isn't it, behind all the sleek car launches and the big sales numbers.
There are real companies, real people making strategic moves, feeling the pressure, and sometimes maybe saying things they shouldn't, or at least not publicly.
It shows how even a small social media comment can reflect these bigger competitive anxieties.
Definitely. It's about brands fiercely competing for your attention and ultimately your money.
So this is where it gets really interesting thinking ahead, right?
Yeah.
A few lines on Douyin sparked this whole discussion about market dynamics, corporate rivalry. What does it suggest about the future? Are we going to see more of this kind of public direct confrontation between EV companies?
That's the big question, isn't it? Will this become more common as competition heats up even more? Or will companies learn from this, maybe, and try to keep their fights a bit more behind the scenes, more subtle digs, less direct attacks?
Yeah, how do you balance that fierce competition with maintaining, a professional brand image, especially in the digital age where everything can spread?
It's a tough line to walk.
Yeah.
The rules of engagement seem to be evolving in real time.
Well, thanks for diving deep into this slice of EV competition with us today. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is.
And if this peek into the Chinese auto world, or maybe the strategies behind product launches and marketing battles has got you thinking, definitely let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, we're always keen to hear what you find interesting and what other areas you'd like us to explore. Your input really does guide where we go next.
Absolutely. So if you found this deep dive insightful, please hit that like button. It really helps us out. And of course, subscribe for more in-depth explorations of the topics you're curious about. Okay, let's swap the other news from China and Tesla for a moment and really get into understanding some pretty significant shifts we're seeing there. You know how we aim to look beyond the headlines, kind of grasp the real trends? That's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to unpack Tesla's recent sales figures in China against, well, the backdrop of their rapidly evolving electric vehicle market.
Yeah, we've got the latest sales data, some expert commentary too. It's about trying to figure out what it all means, right?
Exactly. Our goal really is to move beyond just the numbers and understand the underlying story. Why is Tesla's performance in China looking like this now?
And what does it tell us about that intensely competitive EV landscape over there? It's a crucial market. We want to give you a clear sense of what's really significant.
Okay, so let's dive in. Those April sales figures for Tesla in China, 28,731 cars sold.
Right.
Now, that might sound like a lot, but here's where it gets interesting. That's actually down 8.6% compared to April last year.
Okay, year-on-year drop.
But yeah, and maybe even more striking, if you compare it to just the previous month, March of this year, it's a huge drop. 62.1% down.
Wow, 62% month over month. That's quite dramatic. That's not just a blip.
No, it really suggests something shifting potentially in demand.
It does. And if you zero in on their traditional bestseller, the Model Y, you see a similar thing happening. They sold, 19,984 units in April. That's a big drop, too, down 24% compared to April last year.
So even the Model Y, their powerhouse, is facing some increasing headwinds, it seems.
Definitely.
Which makes the wider context, the whole Chinese EV market, even more, telling.
Right.
Because while Tesla's sales are shrinking,
right,
the overall market for battery electric vehicles, BEVs, in China is just booming. We're talking a massive 38% increase year on year.
38% up for the market overall.
Yeah. 559,000 BEVs sold in April alone. So, basically for every 10 new EVs sold, less than one is a Tesla now. That's quite a change from their earlier dominance.
It's that contrast, isn't it? Tesla down around 9% year on year, but the market surging 38%. That really spells out a significant transfer of market share. Others are picking it up.
Absolutely. And you see that transfer really clearly when you look at Tesla's specific market share in the all-electric segment in China. In April, it was just 5.1%.
Only 5%.
Yeah. And just to give you some perspective, the month before, in March, it was 11.5%. So that's more than halved in a single month.
That's a sharp decline. It really underlines the The intensifying pressure Tesla's under from other players in China are definitely not the unchallenged leader anymore.
Now, we should also remember Tesla exports cars from their Shanghai factory, too.
Right, Giga Shanghai is huge for exports.
And in April, those exports were 29,728 cars. Interestingly, that's only down slightly, about 3% compared to exports in April last year.
Okay, so domestic sales took a big hit, but exports held relatively steady.
Seems like it.
Which suggests, that China factory is still absolutely vital for their global supply chain, even while the domestic Chinese market gets tougher for them.
Right. So if you put domestic sales and exports together, Tesla China sold a total of 58,459 vehicles in April. That combined figure is down 6% year on year, and it's down 26% compared to March. So yeah, across the board, April definitely shows a clear downward trend.
And if we zoom out a bit, look at the year-to-date, say January through April 2025. Tesla's total domestic sales in China were 163,338 units. That's actually only down a tiny bit, 0.3% compared to the same period last year, almost flat.
Okay, so domestic sales over the 4 months weren't drastically down.
Not drastically, no. But the exports in that same Jan-April period, that's where you see a much bigger drop, 67,875 units exported, which is down a really significant 43% year on year.
Wow, 43% drop in exports year to date. That's major. So, okay, the total picture then, total output from the China factory, domestic plus export for those first 4 months, 231,213 cars. And that total figure is down 18% compared to the same time in 2024. So, yeah, the overall output is significantly down, driven a lot by that export slump.
Correct.
Which brings us, of course, to the big question, the one you're probably thinking too. Why? What is going on here? What's driving this shift?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And look, the information we're seeing points pretty squarely towards one main thing. Just intense competition within the Chinese EV market. It seems less about, say, factors like CEO perception, which sometimes comes up in Europe. Sources suggest it's less of a driver for Chinese buyers.
Yeah.
It's really about the sheer number of compelling alternatives available now.
Exactly. Our sources really highlight how the Model 3 sedan is struggling, even though it had that recent refresh. It's facing, and this is quote, affordable and fierce competitors. We're talking cars like the BYD Seal, the Zeekr 007, Neo T5, XMQ 7, that new Xiaomi SU7, and the list goes on. The article literally says dozens others.
Dozens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible crowded field, especially in that sedan segment.
Right.
And remember, Tesla's earlier success in China was really heavily reliant on the Model Y SUV. That thing was dominant. Our info shows it accounted for, 73% of their China sales in 2024? Over 480,000 units sold, carrying a lot of the weight.
Huge numbers. But now, even that Model Y is facing a growing wave of rivals. We're seeing strong competition from the Xpeng G6, the Onvo L60, that's Neo's new brand, the Auto L6, BYD's Celion 7, the Zeekr 7X. The list keeps growing in the SUV space, too.
It really does. And what's quite striking is the speed these Chinese EV startups are moving at. The sources mentioned this China's speed development cycles of just 2 to 3 years.
Incredible pace.
Yeah, and they're pushing technology boundaries, too. Things like 800-volt charging architecture, which means significantly faster charging. That's a big convenience factor,
Right, something Tesla's Model Y and 3 on their 400-volt systems don't currently offer there.
Exactly. Plus, these competitors are really focusing on advanced connectivity, sophisticated driver assistance systems, ADS features, and, there's also this growing element of national pride. Younger buyers seem increasingly confident choosing domestic brands.
And a really crucial point that comes up is Tesla's, apparent lack of new models specifically for the Chinese market. In an environment moving this fast, just relying on refreshes might not be enough. You need genuinely new products with the latest tech.
Precisely. It seems continuous innovation and new model introductions are just essential to keep momentum in China right now.
So, okay, stepping back, looking at the big picture, the implications are pretty clear, aren't they?
I think so. The Chinese EV market is just enormous, yes, but it's also hyper-competitive and evolving at breakneck speed. Tesla's period of sort of easier dominance, that seems to be over. They're facing a serious challenge now from both established Chinese players and these ambitious new startups.
It really hammers home that point.
Yeah.
In this kind of market, standing still just isn't an option. Speed of innovation, new models, advanced tech, competitive pricing, these are all critical.
Absolutely. And, this isn't just abstract data for people deep in the auto industry. It gives you really crucial context if you're following the sector, maybe thinking about investments, or even just curious about these big global tech competitions.
Yeah.
What happens in China's EV market doesn't stay in China. It has ripple effects everywhere.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the key takeaways then. Tesla's sales dipped in China in April, and their market share took a significant hit. This is happening even as the overall Chinese EV market itself is growing really strongly.
Right.
And the main reason seems to be just ferocious competition from a growing number of Chinese EV makers. They're innovating fast, offering attractive alternatives, and tapping into local consumer confidence.
And Tesla's reliance on the Model Y, plus maybe a lag in bringing totally new models suited for China, seems to be adding to the pressure. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you to consider. Given this incredible pace of innovation in China's EV world, and how quickly consumer tastes are changing there, what kind of long-term strategies might global players like Tesla need to think about to really maintain a strong footing in such a dynamic place? It's fascinating because, this isn't just about cars anymore. It's a real reflection of these bigger shifts in global tech and economics.
We appreciate you joining us. We'll catch you in the next one.